Low pressure, a deep low over Iceland, and that's pushing this active cold front through. It's bringing a spell of heavy rain to many parts of central and southern UK during the evening. It then clears after several hours of wet and windy weather, but following on, colder winds blow in, frequent showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, but some showers reaching Western England and Wales. A much colder feel to begin Friday. Enough of a breeze to prevent a widespread frost, but there will be some snow in places, most especially central Scotland, where above 350 metres there's the risk of 10 centimetres of snow by dawn. Could cause some disruption, hence the snow and ice warning. At lower levels, a patchy centimetre or two possible early Friday because of these frequent showers coming in, and these showers across many northern and western parts of the UK will bring a real mixture of rain, hail and even some snow, although any lying snow tending to be restricted, like I say, to northern hills, especially as we go through the day on Friday and it warms up ever so slightly. But not much warmth coming through because this cold wind will carry with it frequent showers, especially in the north and the west. Some sunshine in between, certainly brighter skies, even if not entirely sunny, but temperatures some degrees down on previous days. We're talking about 6 to 9 Celsius. Saturday starts off cold, some icy patches in places and lighter winds compared with Friday. Actually, Saturday on a whole is looking brighter and less unsettled, but there'll be further showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, one or two further south. And then into Sunday, the cloud increases once again. Spells of rain move in from the west, but it does turn a little bit less cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Everything you need to enjoy a super summer could be on us this year, as you could drive away with this very latest Benivan 4-berth campervan. This campervan is fully equipped with its own kitchen, bathroom, dinette and plenty of storage. We'll also get your summer sorted with a further £25,000 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. For another chance to win a campervan and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight. The FBI has confirmed that authorities are at the scene of a shooting at a synagogue in Michigan. A driver has reportedly crashed into Temple Israel in the Detroit suburb of West Bloomfield before opening fire. In the last hour, reports suggest the suspected gunman is dead, and authorities said a security guard was injured when a gunman forced his way through the doors in a car. Also tonight.
Now, make no mistake, this plan means migration will fall. That's a promise.
Britain's migration figures continue to be bad news, but could the truth be worse than feared? Questions are being raised about how net migration is calculated, with concerns about an apparent assumption that migrants leave the UK when their visas expire, although there's no evidence that they do. Do we know who is in our country, or is the situation worse than we think? Plus,
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
earlier this week, we discussed on this programme new research which revealed mourning for Iran's former supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had taken place on 27 university campuses across Britain. Now, amid rising tension in the Middle East and growing concerns about extremism, MPs are asking whether the government needs to do more on integration and counter-extremism, and if not, what the consequences could be. And
the birds, tuppence a bag.
People living in Brent have been warned they could face 5 years in durance vile for feeding a pigeon. Council signs in Kilburn claimed feeding birds could mean jail or unlimited fines. But why do local authorities have so much power, and is it time to stop them? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most phlogistically prognosticating panel, the former Conservative Special Advisor, James Price, and the Labour peer, Baroness Hayter. As always, let me know what you think, mailmog@gbnews.com, but now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with the sesquipedalian Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 8 o'clock, well, we start with the situation in the Middle East. Bombs battering Beirut as Israel has launched yet another wave of airstrikes across the Lebanese capital. These were the pictures we had into us in the newsroom in the last hour or so. Pictures there showing smoke rising from the rubble after a building in central Beirut was hit less than a kilometre from government headquarters. Well, these are the scenes of the Beirut skyline tonight, where Israel has carried out daily strikes against Hezbollah since the 2nd of March. Today, Lebanon's health ministry has confirmed the death toll from Israeli attacks since then has continued to rise, now standing at 687. Well, the strikes come as tensions are escalating across the wider region. More cargo ships have been attacked in the Gulf today. 2 tankers were struck near Iraq and a container ship hit near the United Arab Emirates. Iranian forces have claimed responsibility for at least one of those attacks. It led to oil prices climbing this afternoon, reaching $101 a barrel. That's up around 10%. The price rise comes despite 32 countries agreeing to release 400 million barrels of emergency reserves in an effort to calm the global markets. And earlier, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, vowed to keep blocking the Strait of Hormuz. And in a statement on Iranian state television, he promised to avenge the blood of Iranians killed in the conflict. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has also warned that any vessel linked to the United States, Israel or their allies will, they say, be targeted. But President Donald Trump says the United States has already won the war in Iran, though he insists the job still needs to be finished.
We have very good news on the war front. Namely, they are absolutely being destroyed. Iran is being absolutely decimated.
Here, Sir Keir Starmer has admitted he got it wrong when he appointed Lord Peter Mandelson as Britain's ambassador to Washington. The Prime Minister has now apologised to victims of the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein after newly released documents showed he was warned that Mandelson's links posed a reputational risk. Government Minister Darren Jones said today the due diligence process fell far short of what was needed and weaknesses in the system are now being addressed. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Labour MPs should consider whether Sir Keir Starmer is even fit to run the country.
He stood in Parliament and said he didn't know the full extent of Peter Mandelson's relationship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and those papers show that he did know, that he was warned, and he told us that he didn't. And I think that if someone can stand up at the dispatch box and tell barefaced lies like that, they are not fit to run the country. And it's not the only time he's done it. He does it over and over again. Even yesterday, he misrepresents my position, the positions of other MPs in other parties. He's not honest. I think it is disgraceful what he has done.
In other news tonight, a woman who kept a vulnerable victim captive in her home for 25 years has been jailed today for 13 years. 56-year-old Amanda Wixon forced the woman to shave her hair, beat her if chores weren't done, and made her live off scraps of food. Sentencing at court, the judge said Wixon cruelly and persistently held her captive and crushed her spirit. The victim now requires round-the-clock care, and prosecutors say she'll live with the trauma for the rest of her life. MPs are launching an inquiry into student loans amid what they call widespread dissatisfaction with the system. The Treasury Committee will examine whether freezing repayment thresholds for graduates in England is fair. It will also look at whether repayment terms are reasonable, alongside the wider tax burden faced by graduates. The Department for Education says the policy is designed to protect both taxpayers and students. And just before I hand you back to Jacob in Westminster, let's bring you the latest on what we know regarding that major police operation outside a synagogue in United States. It began around 2 hours or so ago after a gunman launched an attack in Michigan, with officials confirming that suspect has now been shot dead. Police say the man rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel in West Bloomfield of Michigan, driving through the doors and down a hallway inside the building before his car caught fire. The suspect, who was armed with a rifle, injured and knocked unconscious one security guard before another engaged him in gunfire. Authorities have confirmed no one else was harmed. Police are now clearing the area and they are checking for explosives, but say there is no ongoing threat to the community at this stage. Those are the latest headlines. I'll hand you straight back now to Jacob.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to State of the Nation with more on the horrific events in Michigan. Joining me now is the former FBI Special Agent James Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, thank you very much for joining me. What, as far as you know, has actually happened, and who is it that we think has been killed, and does he have any link to Iran, as far as you know?
Hey, Jacob, thanks for having me. That's obviously where they're going to be going now. The investigators are going to be pouring through who is he connected to, why did he do it? Obviously, this comes on the heels of another attack we had March 2nd. Individual was sympathizing with the Iran situation, so certainly that'll be topic of mind as they begin the investigation.
And as far as we know, he didn't manage to kill anybody, that one security guard has been wounded, but the perpetrator is himself dead.
Yes, sir. It looks like that's exactly what happened. He was killed during a shooting by local security. I believe that is school security. And, fortunately, no children or any other individuals were harmed.
And is it your expectation, your fear, that there might be lone wolf attacks going on in America in response to what's been happening in Iran? Or do you think it's more likely to be organised by Iranian forces? And if so, which do you think is the greater risk, the greater problem for the security services, the FBI in particular, to deal with?
Yeah, I think it's one of those all of the above situations. Lone wolf is certainly something we're concerned about. That's what the guy in Austin was. But, regime organized attacks, very sophisticated attacks, and very capable attacks are something that the FBI and security services here are also looking at. So it's an awful lot that they're going to, have their attention to, and these attacks are playing out. And I, I unfortunately hate to say it, but I do expect more.
And it becomes quite a defence of your gun laws, doesn't it, that a security man at the scene was able to stop the gunman from carrying out his evil intent. In this country, somebody with a gun is in a much stronger position.
Yeah, it's very common here. School Resource Officer Project has been around really since Columbine, but especially these synagogues, their security is very strong, as you should expect, based on, all the attacks they've gone through and been victim of all these years.
Well, James, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your expertise with GB News viewers. I'm joined now by the defence editor of the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Robert, what's your immediate view on this?
I think it is, we must fear, but as the former agent was saying, we must be careful in saying for sure that this is a bellwether. This is something that may lead to further attacks like this. Certainly Iran is very good at this awful word, asymmetric attacks, and it may not just be confined to anti-Semitic activity, although that is obviously something that they'll be working on, not only in America, but obviously in the UK and in Europe. But in a way, if we talk this up, as we were saying, here in the Temple Israel synagogue, the security guys knew what they were doing and they shut it down. It was very professional and it was very, very effective. And the thing is, we mustn't do the chicken lick in the sky's falling in approach, because that plays the game of the extremists. I think that they will be doing a lot. They do an awful lot all over the place. Last year, when the bombing campaign took place, Midnight Hammer, 12 days, the internet was off from Iran. Bots, as they're called, attacks through the internet on extreme causes for Scottish independence went down by nearly 30% on receivers in the British Isles. That is an indication of the complexity of this one, and they'll be playing all around the wicket, and we must look at where we're not looking at the moment. I'll bet Iran is active in Eastern Europe, the Balkans, the Caucasus, and then going all across Central Asia and all the way down into Africa, looking for sympathy. And they're balling it up, and this is what we were hearing from your headlines is so ominous, with the extreme Palestinian cause, that it's all being melded together because it's against Israel. My concern, hearing James, the former FBI agent, is whether we have enough resources, whether we are too stretched. We've been looking at asymmetric warfare, particularly generated from the Ukraine war. Now we've got this. And it's not either or. In defence world, I am very worried. We're beginning to say it's the turbulence in Eastern Europe and the North, the Arctic, or the Middle East. No, it doesn't work like that. And we've got to be much more aware of growing, I'm not saying we're at war, growing threat. And it is a threat to all our way of life and livelihood.
And it does seem that Russia and Iran are working quite closely together, and that the drones being used by Iran are influenced by Russian technology, and that therefore the threat is coming from both of them, but in two very different places.
I mean, in journalistic terms, I'm what you would call a very simple soldier. I was with the Secretary of State of Defence today, and he said, well, there might be a possibility of this and that. Look, the design of the Russian drones is Iranian. The Iranians have provided Shaheds, and also the Shahed one-way attack suicide drone, and that technology comes back. And even in some Western-made, locally Western-made drones, in inverted commas, in Eastern Europe, which is a huge industry now, there are Russian components or Russian designed. But above all, it's amazing how this whole crisis, particularly regarding Ukraine, but above all how little we mention China. China is the one dominant force which probably could stop the Ukraine war overnight. It's coming back to your point about drones. The key components of the drones are absolutely reliant on technology and also cheap components coming from China, both in Iran and in Russia. And that's what we're saying. It's an arms bazaar. We saw it in the Yugoslav wars. It's happening. And of course, and even the tactics are Russian tactics that they're using now.
So does that begin to change with the Straits of Hormuz being closed? Because China is the major recipient of oil through the Straits of Hormuz and will not want the oil price having risen in the way it has when its latest economic forecasts are the lowest they've had in decades.
Their so-called friends are not doing them any favours at the moment, and particularly the Iranians. And for the new supreme leader, the son of the old supreme leader, Mujahid, to say this thing, this blood-curdling thing, yes, we're going to close down the Straits of Hormuz, which damages Iran very badly as well, and we're going to close down or attack, potentially, every American base. That means every British interest. They attacked one in Erbil, which was primarily American, with the Kurds, but in fact it was an Italian and British base. British troops are there. We're in this and I'm afraid that urgency, focusing on the Straits of Hormuz, is not getting home here, just up the road here in Whitehall and Number 10.
So Whitehall doesn't understand the seriousness of it. Perhaps nor does it understand that asymmetric warfare is very difficult to deal with because your enemy just has to get through with one small thing and you're using very sophisticated equipment in retaliation.
The way that, although they won't admit it, they said, yes, we've got sophisticated remote things, but we withdrew our mine-sweeping presence. Our last mine hunter is back home, Middleton, HMS Middleton, for a refurb, allegedly. That is exactly your point. It's not only mines. They can mix up. They've got a funny little orchestra working there, the Iranians. They have attack boats, manned attack boats, suicide boats, remotely controlled attack boats, because we've seen them at work. We've got mines, old and new. Old sea mines, they're a jolly nuisance. But the sophisticated ones, the smart ones, so-called, which sit on the bottom and sense the appearance of a hull above them and then go, whoop, bang. They've kept us guessing. And the fact that we have neglected this, and I say we, because with the Armilla Patrol and so on, Britain was a leader. We don't have a frigate or destroyer currently, though Dragon is on her way, east of Gibraltar at the moment.
And if we had Dragon is actually a world-leading ship, is that right? But yes, we haven't got our resources there.
Yes, amazingly, even our Chief of Defence Staff seems to be rather reluctant because he wears a light blue uniform. I'm sorry to say, trivial as that, these things come into it. Dragon is a Type 45 destroyer with a system based on a thing called the Samson radar. It is a world beater. It works with the American Arleigh Burkes, and until recently, it was superior to them. It can also knock down a lot of drones and missiles at the same time. Akrotiri doesn't have that facility at the moment, and there should have been a guard ship there once this crisis began on January the 1st.
Right. Well, Robert, thank you very much. I fear we're getting a bit like, I think it was Frederick the Great's father, whose army was so impressive that he never wanted to use it in case it got damaged, and we seem to be in that unhappy state. Coming up in just a moment, questions being raised about how net migration is calculated, with concerns about an apparent assumption that migrants leave the UK when their visas expire, although there is no evidence they actually do this. So is the situation worse than we thought?
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, I actually looked at the survey and looked at the questions asked, and there are two questions asked. The first is, all things considered, how satisfied are you with life as a whole these days? And the second question asked is the sense of meaning. And you're asked to give a value to, I generally feel that what I do in life is valuable and worthwhile. And on the second question, all parents across the board from all socioeconomic backgrounds answer that life is much more meaningful with children. But in terms of life satisfaction, where particularly where it's like with single parents, or if you don't have faith, or if you don't have family support, life can be harder, which is true. So the real question is, how can we support families to really, in the job of raising children, because it's not the having children that's the problem. Children do not ruin your life. They give you so much. It requires a lot of work, but what you get back is so much, and you experience depths of love, enrichment that you don't find normally. So it depends on what
you do, but you've got to be realistic. Kids also cause problems as well. As much as I'm blessed to be a mother of 4. Children are hard work, and people live in a fantasy, and I think that is why there is so much postnatal depression. So much people don't know what's going to hit them. I think people get into this bubble, think they're going to have this child, they're going to travel the world, and it's all going to be bliss. If you're poor, that ain't happening. I think we know many people get divorced because of having kids. Kids do cause happiness, and don't get me wrong, they do give you so much, like you said, enrichment, but on a realistic level, I think they can be hard work. And to me, when I go up to the nursery, no mum looks happy. That's just me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. This is what Sir Keir Starmer said his plan was about migration.
Serious answer is to smash the gangs. We have to take those gangs down, to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade, to smash these gangs.
Well, the gangs haven't been smashed, but the question is that the bigger problem? We know the people who are coming over on small boats, the figures come through pretty much on a daily basis. They come in, they get registered, they get hotel rooms, eventually they all seem to get asylum. And we know, month by month, year by year, who's coming. But what we don't know is people who overstay on their visas. And this is something that it's remarkably easy to do if you can get a visa in the first place. So the controls are at the early stage. Can you get a visa from the embassy in whichever country you're coming from? Then you come over. You may come on a student visa, you may come on a holiday visa or a business visa, and you just don't leave. And we don't have any very good information on that. It used to be done on a survey basis. But our real problem is that we don't ask people, don't check when they come in and when they leave. We stamp them in. They get a nice little stamp in their passport, or they come through the e-gates. It's all clearly registered. But when people leave, you don't know. The way it's calculated is by asking the airlines who has left to see if you can match up departures with arrivals and see if people have in fact gone. Unfortunately, unless it's been done very recently, that was last done in 2020. So we haven't bothered really even to check who's been leaving, and therefore people could be overstaying. And when places with illegal immigrants are raided, you find the problem is not the people on the boats, but the overstayers on visas. And there you have the problem that the ONS hasn't been recording it. When we were still in the EU, they used to do it by asking people when they arrived what they were doing, and they did it as a survey. And they did it 9 to 5, so they tended to miss the arrivals from some other parts of the world who arrived early. Now they do it by checking, by sampling, but not by checking that we make sure everybody who comes in has left and have a record. So what does the ONS have to say about this? They say that to estimate emigration, we identify previous long-term immigrants with a last departure from the UK during the reference period. We record them as a long-term emigrant if they do not return to the UK within 12 months, or if they only return for a short-term stay. That doesn't really help us, because they're not actually checking us out. Well, let me now go to my panel to discuss this because I am joined by my most phlogistically prognosticating panel, James Price and Baroness Hayter. Diane, the problem with this is not party political because the uselessness on our statistics is very long-standing. The ONS has a large budget and it just doesn't seem to be providing governments with the statistics they need to make things work, to know what their policies ought to be.
I think there's a bigger problem than statistics, is that we don't know. If we knew, then we could blame the statisticians for not keeping it properly. But it's interesting, I'm sure despite all your views, you do travel to Europe and back quite often, and they stamp your passport going in and they stamp it coming out again. So they know exactly how long I'm in my case, France or Belgium. So actually, I think it's a political issue. Do we want to actually record who's coming in and who's going out? So I wouldn't blame the statisticians. I would blame the government. That if we want to know who's in, who's overstayed and who's left, then we have to decide as a parliament that we will do that and we will record it.
And that's a fair point, that the statisticians are doing their best. When we were in the EU, it was much harder to keep records because of free movement. Since we left, we could be like America, where they record every arrival and every departure, and as you say, continental European countries. Do you think governments don't want to do this because they're worried the figures would be so bad?
Well, it was your government who didn't do it when we came out of Brexit, so I'd be really interested about why you took... I'm not getting at you, but I mean, I'm very interested. At the point we left, that we didn't then record people from either coming in from the European Union or further afield. So you would know better than I about why we didn't do it.
We stopped recording people from outside the EU under the Blair government, so we can share the political pain on this, that it used to be done.
That we recorded in and out?
And out from non-EU, because the EU obviously run different regulations.
And put that all on a computer, and so not just stamp.
Well, I'm not sure what they did with it.
Because we've now got the apps, the computer ability to do it. I mean, that's what's interesting. I mean, historically, when we were doing this long time back, before you two were born probably, you know, we were doing all this, but we didn't have the computer. We've now got the wherewithal that we could do it.
James, what's your experience of this? I mean, you've been a special advisor. What were the thoughts of ministers about collecting this sort of information?
Well, on the 250th anniversary of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, let's quote Adam Smith, there's a great degree of ruin in a nation. I think, therefore, there's a lot of blame to go around for the statisticians and the political and civil servants as well. So I think on the statistician side, a lot of really bad assumptions are made. The idea that nobody would ever outstay these visas. I think I looked at Carl Williams at the Centre for Policy Studies, who said there's an assumption, basically, that around 90,000 people a year will decide to leave via crossing over the border into the Republic of Ireland and then flying out from Dublin, which I think is probably quite a high guess of that. But I think at the same point, ministers probably either don't want to know or civil servants don't want to know, because if you discover there are many more people here, then you've got to do something about it. And you could ask the utilities companies at Water, and they've got a much better idea of this. And I think Thames Water came out with some stats a year or two ago that suggested there were many, many more people here than officially ought to be.
You can ask Tesco.
You can ask.
Tesco, I believe, has said that it has a better idea of who is in the country than the census has.
Yeah, exactly right. And therefore, the question, you've got to go and do something about it. And we've seen that can be quite difficult if you look at the United States, when some of the violent attempts to get people out, which is, I think, justified if these people are committing criminal acts. But I think the bit that will really stick in a lot of people's craws is that you've got people that come in, they take the mick out of the system, frankly, overstaying these visas and the rest of it. The people who are here legally and trying to abide by that system get treated pretty badly. My wife is here on now a spousal visa, and when we got married and we moved from her working visa onto the spousal visa, she's from the United States, they treated us in the Home Office as if we were basically criminals who were doing this like sham marriage as a way of just trying to get around the system. And yet there are all these people we know who are taking the mick out of the system, and we just let it go. And we've seen even last year, for example, people smuggling in on small boats who we now have been arrested for smuggling and spying for Iran. And given what's going on at the moment, this is not just unpleasant and the rest of it, it's a potentially big national security risk too.
And doesn't the starting point for policy making have to be accurate information, and that whatever you think about migration, whether you think it's a great thing or you want to limit it very sharply, you need to know what the true position is
But you and I have an absolutely different view about the question of identity cards, because it does seem to me that we do need to move, that we know exactly who's here and we know who's meant to be here, and that those of us should have an identity card who are here. Now, I know we disagree on that, but actually, unless we start doing something like that, we're not going to be able to catch... You know, I'm careful about my words because they're not all here playing the system. Some of them are actually have, you know, effectively got married, and we've also no way at the point they get married at saying, oh, you've switched from this visa to another. So we do have to actually get control of this. If you don't want identity cards, which I accept you don't, then I do think you have to find a whole population method.
But isn't the starting point to register people both as they leave and as they arrive? That then at least gives you an idea of who is here.
But we've got an awful lot of people already here. That'll be OK going forward, and I agree with that.
Aren't they, in reality, and this is one area where I think what Donald Trump does wouldn't play here, very difficult to do anything about, because I'm not sure this country has the stomach for an ICE removal of hundreds of thousands of people.
We don't have to do that.
But I think you therefore need to start from where you are now and make sure you know in future.
Yeah, and we can do that.
Because once people have been here 10 years, the British people are basically pretty kindly. And they're not going to want people ripped out of the country who've been here a long time.
And those people are working and paying their taxes and doing all those things and paying rent.
Well, we don't know. It's the crucial point.
We don't know.
There are plenty of people who come in, they've overstayed the visa, they've fallen in love, or they've started working, they've found a way to pay taxes, fine. We don't know. There are plenty of others, I'm sure. I mean, we've got over 1 million people now who don't speak any English. I can't imagine they're paying a huge amount of taxes if they can't communicate with anybody.
No. There are a lot of people here who are out here absolutely legally who don't speak English. That's not a way of defining. Right. Americans, you happen to be married to an American, they happen to speak English.
Do Americans speak English?
Well, I think that's a very good...
If I look at that, I'll get in trouble.
That is a debate for another time. Anyway, thank you to my panel. A spokesman for the Office of National Statistics said, we have vastly improved the accuracy of our long-term international migration statistics in recent years. Rather than relying on state intentions in surveys, our migration statistics are now based on actual behaviours of those arriving and leaving the UK using administrative data sources such as visa and higher education data. So, coming up in just a moment, we've got this.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
Earlier this week, we discussed on this programme new research which revealed mourning for Iran's former supreme leader had taken place on university campuses. Now MPs are asking whether the government needs to do more on integration and counter-extremism, and if not, what might the consequences be?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking at the weather across southern Europe through tomorrow, and for many it's actually going to be largely dry, but not everywhere. Across Italy there will be some showery bursts, and some of these will be heavy and perhaps even thundery. And then across parts of northwest Spain, Portugal, there is a frontal system that's making its way through. That's also spreading its way southeastwards across France. And so as we head into the weekend around southeast France, northwest Italy, there's going to be some heavy thundery rain and even some mountain snow.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again. Wind and rain will clear overnight, followed by colder air from the north-northwest, with a mix of rain, hail and even some snow showers by dawn. Now we've got low pressure, a deep low over Iceland, and that's pushing this active cold front through. It's bringing a spell of heavy rain to many parts of central and southern UK during the evening. It then clears after several hours of wet and windy weather. But following on, colder winds blow in, frequent showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, but some showers reaching Western England and Wales. A much colder feel to begin Friday. Enough of a breeze to prevent a widespread frost, but there will be some snow in places. most especially central Scotland, where above 350 metres there's the risk of 10 centimetres of snow by dawn. Could cause some disruption, hence the snow and ice warning. At lower levels, a patchy centimetre or two possible early Friday because of these frequent showers coming in. And these showers across many northern and western parts of the UK will bring a real mixture of rain, hail and even some snow, although any lying snow tending to be restricted, like I say, to northern hills, especially as we go through the day on Friday and it warms up ever so slightly. But not much warmth coming through because this cold wind will carry with it frequent showers, especially in the north and the west. Some sunshine in between, certainly brighter skies, even if not entirely sunny, but temperatures some degrees down on previous days. We're talking about 6 to 9 Celsius. Saturday starts off cold, some icy patches in places and lighter winds compared with Friday. Actually, Saturday on a whole is looking brighter and less unsettled, but there'll be further showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, 1 or 2 further south. And then into Sunday, the cloud increases once again. Spells of rain move in from the west, but it does turn a little bit less cold.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB Loyalty Points is here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB Loyalty Points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Well, the mail mogs have come in on migration. Wayne says, I stopped taking them seriously when they revised the way they accounted for excessive mortality during COVID to suit a certain narrative. And Mark says, the ONS don't even know with any degree of certainty how many people are in this country. How can it be fit for purpose? And my favourite is from Arthur. We should rename it the Office for Notional Statistics. At least they'd be very good at recording the dyslexics. Earlier this week, we discussed on this programme new research which revealed mourning for the deposed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei took place on 27 university campuses across the country. In response to the growing terror threat, escalating conflict in the Middle East and sectarianism rising, counter-extremism measures are being discussed, with many MPs raising questions about integration and if the government needs to do more to encourage it. And if not, what could the consequences be? Well, I'm joined now by the Conservative MP for Windsor, Jack Rankin. Jack, thank you for coming in. You've been doing some work on these universities and what's been going on. What have you discovered?
Yes, sir. So the excellent work that you picked up earlier this week was the Henry Jackson Society, and they saw that this post, which was originated from the University College of London's ABSOC, which is an Arab acronym that I can't quite pronounce, that was reshared effectively, calling for prayers for their beloved martyr, which is the Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, whatever your viewers think about the Americans' actions in that front and whether Britain should be involved, anybody who would call the Ayatollah their beloved martyr has got no place here in the United Kingdom. And that was shared by Royal Holloway University of London's ABSOC Society, which is a similar creature, and that's in my constituency. And I think it highlights some of the double standards that are being applied here, because your viewers might be aware of the case of Brodie Mitchell, who was a pro-Israel supporter, who was effectively taunted by a pro-Palestinian who called him a wannabe Jew on campus, and he responded with an insult about the kaffifa. He called that a tea towel. Now, he was suspended from his course and kicked out of his university accommodation. Now, just think about
the
double
person
standard.
who used an anti-Semitic claim against him was not suspended.
No, of course not. There's an absolute double standard.
And this is going to the High Court next year.
It is, sir, yes. So there's an absolute double standard here applied, a gross double standard. And frankly, it shows the failures of integration in this country and, frankly, the institutional cowardice which is helping enable it.
Yes, and Royal Holloway, what is their involvement as a university with these societies? Because they try and disassociate themselves and say these societies are independent. But is that quite true? Don't they use university facilities and that are given permission to be active on campus?
Well, I suspect that the societies are branches of the union rather than the university. But I think you're quite right, there's a double standard that's being applied here. And I think that's what makes me quite sad, and I think will anger some of your viewers here today. And frankly, it's that institutional cowardice that we see right across institutions, whether it's universities, whether it's arms of the British state, that I think is what should be really concerning us.
And therefore they're allowing free speech to call an evil dictator a martyr, but that they're making it much harder for people who may be supporting Israel to support Israel. So that's where you see the double standard.
It is, and let's be honest, this is a failure of multiculturalism, right? That's not what we're seeing in this country. The government had a paper out this week and it called integration a two-way street. Now, it shouldn't be a two-way street. If you want to move to this country, you have to accept British values, you want to love this country and you should be integrated in this country. Let's be clear what that means for some of your viewers. That means, for example, the Green Party this week have called for a register of people who have dogs because there's people in this country who have moved here who don't like dogs. Now, that's not the way the world should be. And we've seen this across a variety of instances, whether that's so-called family voting in Gorton and Denton, whether that's the election of the so-called Gaza independents at the general election in 2024.
And how do you try and get this integration? Because I agree with you that integration is what you want. You want people to become British. I feel very strongly that if you've got a British passport, you are British, but you need to participate in that as much as I need to accept it. So how would you encourage this? What would you do about language, for example?
Well, Kemi Badenoch has launched a new commission on integration, and it's supposed to be looking at all these things together. And I think we have to look at housing allocations at social housing, so we shouldn't let ghettos be formed. I think we need to look at translations on public services. For example, if you went into maternity services, you would see all sorts of different languages.
I used to be quite expert in maternity services. The number of children I've got.
Indeed. And maybe we'll have another yet. But there needs to be a societal-wide approach. But frankly, it comes from the centre, it comes from Westminster. We need to give up on this asymmetric multiculturalism and insist on an aggressive integration strategy, because anybody can become British, but they have to buy into our values and our way of life, and that is non-negotiable.
And a lot of these things are guidance that come from central government that encourage translation services and encourage celebration of non-Christian festivals and things like that, that actually stop people integrating, try and encourage them to maintain the views and the languages that they had before they came to this country.
Of course we do. We've seen some guidance in the education world today which has said, be careful about depictions of Christ, because Christ is a Islamic prophet, and in Islam it's typically it's culturally insensitive to depict someone who is alive. So you've got guidance coming out from institutions to schools which is saying, be careful in the nativity depicting Christ. Now, we should say that, well, that's just not how we do things in this country. Quite. And that should be the guidance from the centre. So it must be much more muscular from the centre. But I'm afraid, this is something that's concerning me intensely, it's concerning my constituents, and I know it'll be concerning your viewers.
Well, I'm very grateful for you coming on, and you're brave to criticise an institution in your own constituency. MPs very rarely do that, so thank you very much. GB News and the Henry Jackson Society have contacted Royal Holloway for comment, but have not received a response. Coming up in just a moment, people living in Brent have been warned they could face 5 years in durance vile for feeding a pigeon. Council signs in Kilburn claimed feeding birds could mean jail or unlimited fines. But why do local authorities have so much power? And is it time to give it the bird?
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
People living in Brent were warned they could face 5 years in durance vile, not for violence, drugs or carrying an offensive weapon, but for feeding a pigeon. Residents of Kilburn were greeted by council signs stating that feeding birds could lead to 5-year prison sentences or unlimited fines. Council has apologised, but why do local councils have this much power? When devolved and often unelected bodies are given powers to enforce such measures, it does seem that abuse comes about. The power comes from a Public Service Protection Order, which was introduced under the Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014 to tackle persistent, unreasonable antisocial behaviour. But the problem is, when you give councils power, they then push it to the absolute limit. So let me go to my panel. Dan, I mean, governments with good intentions, as MPs, you're always writing to ministers saying there's antisocial behaviour, can't we do something about it? You give councils a power and then they do something mad.
I don't actually agree with that. I mean, it was your government that put it through.
I know
so
it was, yes.
Absolutely. But honestly, I have to say, I can't get terribly excited about this one. I'm afraid where I live, pigeons and seagulls are an absolute nightmare. But I don't think that that's right. I mean, people make mistakes, and this was a very stupid thing. They've apologised, and they went over the top. I don't think, in all seriousness, this is the big issue facing us at the moment.
But they put the sign up in English in a whole series of translations. I mean, they were really going for it to make everybody
Yeah, I mean,
know.
if you're going to make a mistake, I mean, do it big. And they did it. They did it. But look, I mean, I have to say that, the foxes and the foxes worry me a lot, and the pigeons, they're not good. So it was right that they were trying to. They were trying to do something about it. Don't like their method. Bit stupid.
But
I have a picture of me when I was about 4 or 5 in Trafalgar Square, hand out, feeding the pigeons.
Yes,
I'm probably in trouble.
I used to feed the pigeons when I was a child in St James's Park, and we saw a fox, in Great Peter Street. It walked past the IEA. It was a couple of nights ago. I thought it was a politically unsound fox. But, James, isn't this the problem, basically, of left-wing councils, that they love using power and telling people what to do, and then they push it to the extreme?
Wait, sorry, why do you think it's left? I know you're asking, James.
It's Brent.
But that one happens to be. Are you trying to tell me that no other council, other than a left-wing council, does stupid things?
I think there are lots of bonkers councils, as it happens.
Terribly well-run Tory councils out there. I must declare an interest that I lived until a few weeks ago in Brent, and I was about one street over from where some of these signs were, and people did decide to go and feed the birds. And so, you know, I can feel my kind of little dictatorial interest coming out in this. And some of the mad things that Brent Council didn't deal with, such as at the Kilburn Underground Station, and we saw someone smoking some kind of illegal substances and said, oh, that's not for us to have to deal with because it was the wrong side of the barriers, and all kinds of mad things. So you can see that this sort of social breakdown is happening in various areas. But I suppose, as you say, exactly, someone with a hammer, everything becomes a nail. And if you get a level of social breakdown, it's not exactly horrendous crimes, but it's stuff that has not been done here that we're not used to. So it's not just the bird seed in Brent that's being thrown down. There's this stuff called cat that these people import in, and they chew and spit it out, and it leaves these sort of red stains. Now, you don't really want to imprison people for doing this stuff for up to 5 years necessarily, but if you've got no other way to enforce what have hitherto been social norms, I can see why public bodies get pushed towards these things.
But isn't this part of the problem of not having a visible police force? That actually people don't spit in the street if there's a policeman 20 yards from them, not because they think they'll get a fine, but because they behave better when the police are around. We all drive better when there's a police car right next to us.
I drive perfectly all the time.
Of course you do. I definitely drive better when there's a police car around. It seems to me it's been human nature.
Yes, absolutely right.
Other than Lady Perfect.
Well, listen, I have to go. If we got this driving, I went and did my 3 hour...
Oh, did you?
I did, yes, because I was going at 24 miles an hour. So I've done my 3 hours of training, so I'm now never going above 20 miles an hour, even on a motorway.
I quoted Adam Smith before, and he again has this idea of the impartial spectator, this idea that we ought to perhaps be doing things and acting in a virtuous manner, even when the copper isn't exactly around the corner, because we should think that there might be someone watching us. The problem is in Brent, it's got the second highest foreign-born population in the whole of all the London's boroughs, and there are just lots of people there from having lived there for many years who just live in very different ways socially to us, and so you can see why, again, I think there is that kind of social breakdown that leads to this sort of stuff having to happen in the first place.
It happens in the city as well. Come on, I've been, you know, on a Friday night in Canary Wharf, where there are a lot of people who look a bit more like Jacob, I have to say, you know, well-dressed, straight up, out of the city, misbehaving after too many drinks. So don't, you know, I'd be very careful
there's a difference between Friday nights and the stuff that I saw commuting day in, day out. That is very different.
No, if you're a woman walking past a whole lot of drunk men, I have to tell you, it makes no difference what time it is. And I don't like it anymore.
No, I don't disagree with that you get bad behaviour from all communities, but heavy penalties for very minor things. I mean, I wonder whether even the £100 fine for feeding the birds is going to be right. And it's the lack of sensitivity. They have these powers and they don't realise that if they actually use them, they make the powers look ridiculous. And then they lose the power in the end.
I think part of the problem is that we have, I think, devalued an awful lot of our public servants. You know, the clerk of... what it used to be called, the clerk of the parish, wasn't it, originally, was a very respected person. And that was a career you went into. They were relatively well paid. They had a pension. There was a great pride in what they're doing. I think we have devalued a lot of public servants, and therefore there's a much higher turnover without, therefore, that sensitivity of being an apprentice in a way, that you saw how someone higher up the ladder worked, that there was some acceptance. It can be open for corruption, of course. But if you give people too much
power, there's a risk.
I think at the same time we also see so many people now who commit literally hundreds of offences and are given more suspended sentences again and again and again, and then nothing happens to them, and they're the people that keep committing actual crimes. So I think when people see that happening, and then they go and see this sort of antisocial behaviour, you can see why they might encourage councils to do some of this.
All right, well, the answer to gulls is gull's eggs, which will be coming into season in April and are absolutely delicious. Anyway, that's all from us. Thanks to my panel. Next up is the one and only Nana Akiwa in for Patrick Christie's.
Oh, hello,
Nana,
Jacob.
what's on your programme this evening?
Well, we'll be talking about Keir Starmer. Finally, he says a real sort of genuine sounding sorry without saying it's because he lied to me. Also, the unions aren't happy with him either. Plus, the shooting in the synagogue. We'll be bringing you all of that after your weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Wind and rain will clear overnight, followed by colder air from the north-northwest, with a mix of rain, hail and even some snow showers by dawn. Now we've got low pressure, a deep low over Iceland, and that's pushing this active cold front through. It's bringing a spell of heavy rain to many parts of central and southern UK during the evening. It then clears after several hours of wet and windy weather, but following on, colder winds blow in, frequent showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, but some showers reaching Western England and Wales. A much colder feel to begin Friday. Enough of a breeze to prevent a widespread frost, but there will be some snow in places, most especially central Scotland, where above 350 metres there's the risk of 10 centimetres of snow by dawn. Could cause some disruption, hence the snow and ice warning. At lower levels, a patchy centimetre or two possible early Friday because of these frequent showers coming in. And these showers across many northern and western parts of the UK will bring a real mixture of rain, hail and even some snow, although any lying snow tending to be restricted, like I say, to northern hills, especially as we go through the day on Friday and it warms up ever so slightly. But not much warmth coming through because this cold wind will carry with it frequent showers, especially in the north and the west. Some sunshine in between, certainly brighter skies, even if not entirely sunny, but temperatures some degrees down on previous days. We're talking about 6 to 9 Celsius. Saturday starts off cold, some icy patches in places and lighter winds compared with Friday. Actually, Saturday on a whole is looking brighter and less unsettled, but there'll be further showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, one or two further south. And then into Sunday, the cloud increases once again. Spells of rain move in from the west, but it does turn a little bit less cold.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From my